Stay with me just a second. I know you've got a follow-up here, but I want to come back to, especially to Dave, just for a second here and talk about some of these different sectors, because you did see a little bit of a variance there. And I know one area of the market that you've always been sort of fond of, if you will, or maybe tend to follow a little more closely is the small cap market, the small companies.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm looking, I think in some cases that group tends to be doing much better than anything else on the board right now.
Yeah, they've really come out of the bear market pretty nicely.
Mm-hmm.
There was a study that was in one of the financial planning journals about 4 months ago, and it looked at recovering from bear markets, Great Depression, mid-70s, the dot-com crash, and it was interesting. A very important part of recovery in a portfolio includes having small and mid-cap stocks. So it's interesting that, again,
how do you deal with, though, how do you get around the fact that they tend to be the most volatile part of the portfolio? That's always been the concern, no?
And that's interesting you should say that, because there's kind of a risk premium associated with the small caps. People are more reluctant to go into them, so you're getting a little bit more reward as a result.
And by definition, these would be the opposites of the IBMs and the ExxonMobils, probably a lot of names that most people don't see or hear or talk about on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. Small capitalized companies, less than 5 billion, 10 billion, very small. And you wouldn't want to have your entire portfolio in this type of fund or stock, but, you know, working with your professional, determine what percent you should have in recovery mode.
And quickly, your outlook here, though, in spite of the big run-ups, still like a little exposure there, obviously.
Like exposure on the domestic small caps. We think that international small caps, you might be better off looking probably towards the larger companies.
Okay. Elizabeth, I just want to talk about that because I know Dave was familiar with the small cap. We may come back and talk a little more about that, but you've got a little follow-up section tonight as well, right?
Yes, the one question that keeps coming up, and actually show after show too, is whether or not we're going to have inflation in the next few years. If we do, what could possibly investors do to hedge against inflation?